This is just going over the GAither Aither plus Aram version of this team, as some people might have seen at the top of the rankings. This team does outscore the Rwanda one, but I will say that for my setup, I did this before I figured out the extra 4.5 million damage thing, so this is just completely missing it, and I don't have time to retune it. So this is mainly just to show people how the team works. Since we're missing 4.5 million damage, this does score less than the Requiem Rwanda one I posted. If I did get the break entries, then I would have it. But this is the team. It's GAither, Aither, Aram, Frieren, plus Fern, and we can just take a look at everybody's stats. Frieren, we just have her full damage, Destro, crit with Cruel Mischief. Pretty basic stuff, 120 speed. Next up is Fern. We have her on Destro Pen Set with Frantic Flight. This gives 10 crit chance, so we can be as low as 90. We have at 128 speed for our speed tuning, and I will say that it's kind of hard to have her survive at this base bulk, just because this team sustain is not fantastic, but we have a couple of ways to help with that from our other units. So now we have GAither, Aither, and Aram. Let's take a look at GAither Aither first. GAither Aither is one of our healers. His S2 heals a ton of HP, and depending on your timings, the barrier can help too, because the barrier gets stripped once the unit actually takes a turn. We can see that the amount recovered scales based on his attack, so that's why I had to 6-star him. You're also going to want the -1 turn on his S3, just otherwise his S3 won't be up in time. This strips, and also CR pushes our high stack ally, which is going to be Frieren, by 50%. His imprint, 8% HP to the team, or 14% to self. I don't know which one's higher, I just went for the HP for team, because the attack would convert to healing, but I just went for the team imprint HP. You're going to want a pretty high attack with a little bit of speed, 100% crit chance. And also going to want a little bit of defense on him, just to make sure that he doesn't die. And we have Warhorn on him, just for the attack to all allies. And his EE, make sure you have the S2 healing EE, otherwise you're not going to heal enough. Lastly is Aram. Aram, we're using her for her S3 reset. You're probably going to want this enhanced. And then her S1 healing scales based on her max HP. So while you do definitely want a ton of defense on her, just because, especially with low amounts of healing in this fight, having higher defense is more beneficial overall, because then you have a lower HP pool to work with. So when GAither Aither S2s, you'll be healing more of your, HP percentage-wise. But you're still going to want a bit of HP on her. You try dropping some defense for more HP if you find you need more sustain on your other units, rather than Aram. We also have her at 141 speed, so we do need to reset for speed RNG and just make sure that Aram goes first. I want Aram to go first so that the barrier from GAither Aither doesn't wear off. And then besides that, 100% crit chance. And we have Card of Small Miracles on her. I actually need this 5% defense. My Fern's bulk is too squishy. She dies without this. But that's it for everybody's stats, and now we can go ahead and take a look at the run. First things first. Okay, GAither Aither in front is bad, so we're going to reset. You need Aram to go first. I mentioned this is so that the barrier from GAither Aither S2 doesn't get dispelled. We need every bit of sustain we can get in this fight. Here Aram goes first, so we're fine. As long as she's ahead of GAither Aither, it will be fine. So starting off, we're pretty much just waiting for Sovereign's mana, though I am going to hit this ad once with Aram. We're going to S2, and you can see, because Aram went first, now the barrier is going to block a lot of this damage here. And now we're just waiting. So I mentioned that I did the entire tuning for this setup before I figured out the extra 1.5 million per phase, so the scores are going to look a little bit low compared to some of the other stuff, but if you, for some reason, decide to run this team for fun, and you get the extra 4.5 million total damage, then it's definitely like a very high scoring team, probably the second highest scoring team. And then here, we have the 50% CR push from GAither Aither S2, or S3 rather, so we can push Frieren ahead of everybody. And then we're going to instantly enter the break phase, though of course if you're going for the extra damage, then you would leave her a little bit higher and have Fern enter instead. Or Aram. So here, starting off, we are going to just... We're going to S1 first, because usually you would expect to S3 the boss, but we don't do that with the setup because we want Fern to S3 last second and then Aram resets her. So again, we're going to S1. We're going to put in the stealth here, which is fine because we wanted to not hit the ad with GAither Aither this turn anyways. Now we can S3. We're going to give her her S3 back and also the 100% CR push, so she cuts just barely ahead of Frieren. This is our second Fern S3. And now we can finish it off. And you always want to keep track of the attacks on the ad, so now it's at 0. And you'll notice that we held GAither Aither S2 this whole time. This is just because we wanted to use this when there's no Stigma on everybody. Stigma halves your healing. So it's definitely much better for us to do it here. It kind of sucks that Fern loses the barrier here. Frieren has no issues with it, just because she has immunity, so she can't get Stigma, and she gets the full healing from Aram S1. But Fern does have the Stigma, so that's why I mentioned that she has sustained issues in this fight. And then again, we're just gonna do our 2 strips. We had 1 extra hit in this main phase, so if you were going to try and enter break later, you would have to do like at least 2 hits on the ad. And then again, we're not going to just S3, but we are going to hit this ad once first for cycling purposes. A lot of the stuff where you hit Harsetti or hit the ad is just about who you want CR or don't want CR on. Like, we don't want CR on GAither Aither, so we're going to hit Harsetti here. And we have enough for Fern at this point, so we don't need to spam it anymore. Or spam into the ad, rather. We're going to S3 here for damage. And this here, Fern cutting ahead of GAither Aither, is why we did all this stuff with Fern hitting the ad, and then GAither Aither hitting Harsetti and everything. But this is our first S3. Now we're out of hits, so we're just gonna hit the ad. Now we can reset Fern. And you can also just note how rough the sustain is on this team, with Fern not even being max HP. Typically, you'd just be healed up during the break phase. But here's our second S3. And we can finish it off. Now we're all horn front, so we cut ahead of everybody. We're just going to S2 here. Pretty much same thing with Fern just being so fast. She's gonna lose the barrier again, unfortunately. So now this turn with Frieren is a weirder one. Instead of S1, I'm actually going to use my S3 here. This is for speed tuning purposes. The setup I was doing just doesn't work for me if I don't press S3 here. Going to get our last hit in, and we can S1 one more time. And you can see Fern is just barely hanging on. So the whole reason this thing even works is just because GAither's 50% CR push on S2, or on S3. So even though we have to take one more turn to like have Frieren get her S3 back, he took her turn and now we can just CR push her up. And we can get our second strip in. And now we're in the final break phase. That's at 2. And we can hit this once. Now it'll be at 3. We'll reveal it. Now Fern is at 3. This will get her to 4. And then we have a hit to work with, so we're just going to do that. And here's our first S3. We can reset Fern. Second S3 is kind of unfortunate that the target weakness gets dispelled, but it's a very minor damage increase given how much damage boost we have already, and we can finish it off. Like I mentioned, this is mostly just for fun, just to show how the setup generally works. I'm missing, let's just say 4 million damage. It's probably not going to be perfect, even if you got all the entries, because you might have to sacrifice some damage in the break phase itself. But should be looking at over 70 million, at least. I would say at least over 70 million if you did this fight properly. But this is just how the general setup works.